And on that note, I also sort of want to introduce our expert today. That's Marmik Mankodi from Man Matters. He's the director of marketing and Man Matters and Be Body Wise. You might know these brands as one of the top sort of digital health clinics in India, which has sort of scaled really fast in the pandemic. So whenever I talk to Marmik at the earlier stages, he would always say our biggest challenge is how to manage this growth that we've been seeing. And now recently that was sort of figured that out, but now that's like, how do I scale across other channels? And so Man Matters has recently, I mean, not recently, in the last year, sort of raised 24 million from Sequoia. Before that, Marmik has been at Rebel Foods and Damakan, which is also another cloud kitchen based out of Southeast Asia. And he's sort of one of those really deep experts which goes down into sort of building a model with you live. So like I said, this session, which is why we do it in the morning, is we'll require your 100% attention. So yes, turn on your videos. And then doing that, we put our hands together. And Marmik, welcome to Expert. Stage is yours.
So, am I audible?
Yes.
There's some problem with my perfect. Anyway, hi people. Marmik this site. To give some context, I only knew Excel before I sort of got into doing what I do for a living. So, and almost everything that I've learned has been on the job. So please bear with me if I don't sort of dive very deep into it, because a bunch of this comes naturally since I've learned it on the job. Also would request if you keep on asking me a lot of questions in the middle, so that I can sort of dive deeper into that topic or double click on it. Only reason being, again, as I mentioned, like a bunch of these things haven't been taught to me, but I've learned it on the job. So I might not explain it properly until and unless getting nudged in case I'm going too fast or too slow. But let's begin. Is my screen visible? Perfect.
Yeah.
So to begin with, right, so I'll break it down into 4 parts, whatever I cover in the next 1.5 odd hours. First one being, how do you sort of set up your growth targets, right? Like, let's say if I'm doing a revenue of 1 lakh rupees right now in this month, how do I go to wherever I want to go, right? What is possible, what is not possible? And this is something that I've burnt my hands a lot on, in the sense that I'm very optimistic, and every time I'm asked, "Acha, agar ye mahina 1 crore hua, to next mahina 1.5 crore hoga," and I always say yes, ho jayega, without really knowing how we would get there, right? And at least I feel ki I mean, you can acquire new customers, but essentially your revenue is broken down into 2 parts: your new users revenue and repeat user revenue, right? So your repeat user revenue is sort of fixed to the number, or is directly proportional to the number of new customers that you've acquired in the past. And that is one part of your PNL that you shouldn't worry about, and you should only spend your money on acquiring new users, right? So how do you sort of mathematically go about, growing wherever you want to grow, and what is the sort of new customers that you need to acquire, and what is the sort of marketing cost that you can afford, right? Which I would cover in the second part, which is the sort of PNL, right, for a particular cohort, which is again important to track, right? Because I used to work at Rebel Foods, and our average order value was between 300 to 400 rupees. So there's no way we can make money on the first order, right? So at what number of order, or in which month, do the users get really profitable was always a question. And I sort of learned it using this simple Excel trick, which I'll show you. It's more D2C friendly right now, but yeah. And the third part being, I just take you through how we make those cohorts using a pivot table on Google Sheets, so that you can also make it, right? Like, it's quite simple. So I'll teach you how you can do that, and the sheet will be shared with you at the end. And fourth part to it would be a sample funnel, right? Where you can sort of decipher how you can get to the CAC that you want to get to. So yeah, again, I'll probably start here. The first one being the first part of it, right? Which is, let's say if I'm doing 100,000 or 1 lakh rupees in revenue and I want to grow X percent, how do I sort of grow there, right? What what are the sort of targets that get split to my acquisition team and my retention team, right? Or if you don't have two different teams, how do I know how much money I want to spend on new customer acquisition based on your repeat behavior? So let's dive in. अगर अभी हमारा 1 लाख रुपए का सेल है, let's assume that we want to grow 25% every month. What I've done here is just like increasing it by 25%, right? So if I grow 25% month over month, I end up growing from 1 lakh rupees to 11 lakh, right? Over a period of one year, 10 times growth. But as I mentioned, uh, your business can fundamentally be broken down into two parts, right? Your new users and repeat users. So your new user is to thoda constant only. Your new users essentially repeat over a period of months, right? Like let's say month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, 5, 6, 7. हमने 1 साल का लगाया तो month 11 तक आएगा, first one being month 0, right? Which is essentially your Jan to December, right? And यहाँ पे भी I'll just transpose it. Cool. All, I mean, nothing to be clear about. But let's assume that this is your month 1 retention and how your cohorts. So let's say if you want to do 100,000 users and your average order value is 500, you essentially need to acquire 200 users. This is very simple maths. But let's say, as I'd mentioned, these users, they have a predictability in terms of their repeat purchase behavior. Okay. Now, for this example, let's assume that 20% of these users come back in the next month, which essentially means your month 1 for January, which is, let's say, of the 200 customers that you acquire in January, 40 will come back in the month of Feb, right? And this is assuming that your month 1 retention is 20. If it's lower, then it tapers down lower. And it stops at a particular point. So अगर आपका month 1 20 है, so usually you would observe that your month 2 would be, let's say, 17, month 3 would be 15. It tapers by, let's say, 2% to a certain point, and then it stops tapering down, right? कि 8-7% के आसपास constant हो जाता है. Yeah. Agar if you start at 15 as your month 1, then it would taper down to 14, 13, then maybe 10, and it sort of stagnates at 5 to 6%, right? This depends from business to business, right? Like I was going through the responses, and I think someone from a jewelry brand where you wouldn't see, a lot of consecutive or successive repeat purchases. So your month-on-month retention might be low, but then you sort of hedge it by having a higher lifetime value or a higher order value to recover your costs. But this is sort of one way to mathematically go about your cohorts. So essentially, this roughly translates to, this means that you'll get 40 users in month 1, 34 in month 2, right? 30 in month 3, so on and so forth. So the 200 customers that you acquired would necessarily, considering or assuming that your frequency is 1, give you 232 orders in the coming 1 year. Hi, Supriya. You have a question. You've raised your hand.
I wanted to understand, is there any industry metric to say what is the ideal percentage of repeat users that one should have? It may vary industry to industry. So we come from a fashion industry where we're creating an innovative category for plant-based materials in fashion. But I would like to understand if there is any industry metric to have it as a benchmark to understand how we are performing.
Honestly, I wouldn't have it. There might be an industry metric, right? Like maybe you can ask someone who is associated with Mintra or Jabong, and they would probably shed a light, right? But at least what I've seen is that the industry metric and all is moot. until and unless, let's say, you recover your money, right, over a period of time. Like, for example, in food industry average might be, let's say, 40% month one retention. But let's say if you can recover your cost within the first 2-3 orders itself, then you don't really require 40% retention, right? Plus, it also depends on how frequently you expect your users to purchase from you over and over again, right? So very subjective. But having said that, jumping to the next part, right, which is your. So, hi Sainath, what's up?
Hi, Marmik. So the question that I had here is that, so this you've used that 200 is the customers that we have acquired in Jan, and then the percentage of it month on month, and cumulatively how many of these customers have come back over a period of 1 year, right?
Correct.
For the initial 200. Now the question here is that when you're looking at, okay, in this sense it makes sense because it's clear you're putting in Excel, but let's say we're using Shopify and on the back end you have just a single number that comes over, right? Now, in Feb, you would have a customer who would probably repeated twice in Feb, or in March, you would have that add-on happening from even repeats from Feb coming in. So how would I differentiate, effectively that from Jan, whoever acquired, how many of them are actually coming in Feb? And in Feb, who I acquired, how many actually are coming back in Feb and March?
Fair enough. So what I'll do is in the third part, right, where I'll take you through how these cohorts are made on Excel, I think we'll end up covering that. But
Okay.
let's say if you have a very high frequency in your business, right, like let's say a user comes and orders twice, then you factor frequency into your calculations from a target setting perspective.
Okay.
Right. But how to find out frequency, etc., is something that I'll probably show you in the third part.
Got it. Got it. All right. Thank you.
No worries. Now, moving on, right? So what I've done here is I've just simply taken the sales targets that we have, right? Sainath, hi.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry, I think my
okay.
didn't.
Bye.
Sorry.
So as I mentioned, right, कि अच्छा अभी 1 लाख है, अगर मुझे 25% grow करना है, which means that I have to get to 1,25,000, 1 lakh. So I just simply put a formula, right? So now you know that you're going to get 40 customers from your new customer cohort, right? Sorry, from your month one cohort, right? So which means that essentially this is your fixed revenue, which is 2,20,000 rupees, right? So essentially that means that you need to get 1,05,000 rupees from your repeat users, right? Sorry, from your new users, which is essentially sorry. Oh, 1 second. Really, my bad. This is what the formula would sort of look like, right? कि अभी आपको यहाँ से एक सेकंड, यहाँ से 40 into 500, right, which is your 20,000 minus 1,25,000, which is 1,01,000, right? 1,05,000 जितना भी हो रहा है, divided by the average order value. This essentially means the number of new customers that you sort of would have to acquire if you want to grow 25%. Now, if this were 40, then this increases to 240, right? By simple math. We 25 रखते हैं. Now again, right, you see the same sort of trends here, wherein let's say your month one retention would be 20, month two would be 17, so on and so forth, right? Yeah. Okay. Now coming down to the third month, right? Again, same logic of extrapolation here, right? Like let's say you need to do, if you want to grow 25% here, you need to get to, let's say 1,56,000, right? Just miss it. 38,000 फिक्स्ड है आपका अभी आपको, which means you'd need 1,18,250 from your repeat new customers. That's divided by AOV, which means you have to get 237 new customers on board, right? To sort of hit your target when you're setting it up. Let me put a simpler formula here so that it's easy to read when you're referring to it. Again, you will see the same sort of cohort movements happening here. Right, 237 again, 20%, 17%, so on and so forth. Right. Now similarly,
I just want to sort of jump in to say if there's any questions, just raise your hand because this will become more detailed. So I hope you guys are understanding. So Marmik, if you want to just summarize till now what we have done, maybe it'll be easier again so that everyone is catching on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. So what I've done is essentially I know what is my target, right? Which is by simple rule, by a very simple sequential growth calculation कि मुझे 25% हर महीना grow करना है. And I even know that, let's say in any given month, let's say in the month of April, I would get 113 orders coming in from my repeat users, right? So what I've done is taken my overall revenue minus the total revenue that I would get from my repeat cohorts, and sort of divided it by average order value to know how many new customers we would have to acquire. Hi Deep, what's up?
Hi Marmik. Actually a question tha. So for example, if I want to do this for my own sales, my sales numbers, and for this I may be a 6-month-old or an 8-month-old startup where I may have data of 8 months or 7 months going on for the repeat user, and then I get to taper down. So what kind of matrix do we need to for the having the month 1% retention is this, or month 2 is this, so that we can do this in a more logical manner.
So let's say if it, generally it reduces by 2 percentage points, right? Until and unless you have a very, very sticky business that people keep on ordering over and over again, right? Let's say you might, for example, if you're selling something like diapers or groceries, if your month 1 is 20% or 30%, your month 2 won't taper down too much because you're solving for an innate high frequency need, right, of a user. So स्टार्टिंग में आप थोड़ा गेस्टिमेट ले सकते हो कि अगर मेरा 25 है तो 25 का 25 में मेंटेन करूंगा एंड वर्क टुवर्ड्स दैट, एंड otherwise you can just simply assume that it goes down by 2 to 3 percentage points.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So again, right, last time I'm doing this to avoid repetition. L3 to L5 to L7, 113 users I'm going to get from my repeat cohorts who would transact worth 56,000. Now my target is 1,95,000 minus, which means that I need to get 1,38,000 from my new users, which means I need to get 277 new users. Okay. Now I will just sort of, I have another Excel that I'm referring to. I'll just copy paste the formulas to avoid repetition. But essentially this is how you end up setting up your targets, right? Now, this means अगर मैं देखूं तो मुझे ये महीने में 5% ज़्यादा new customers लेके आना है, right? Then in the month of March, need to get 12%, let's say more new users. Let me just put everything in percentages. Huh. In the month of April, I would have to grow my new customers by 17.26% or 17%, right? So on, so forth. So essentially, to grow 25%, I need to get anywhere between 25 to 20 to 25% new customer growth as well, month over month. Starting में देखोगे तो 5% ही दिखेगा because of one very simple reason. Your month one retention is 20%. You want to grow by 25, right? So at any point of time, the number of new customers that you have to acquire would always be less than the amount of or the percentage of growth that you aspire, right? Until and unless you say that, अच्छा मुझे first month 50% grow करना है. So let's say you would have to get 30% more new customers because 20% of that would be covered by repeat, right? या मुझे यहाँ पे अपना equation change कर देना है कि last 3 months October, November, December जहाँ पे दिवाली वगैरह दिवाली क्रिसमस आता है तो you might want to grow more and make hay while the sun shines. So this is the incremental number of, let's say, new customers that you would have to acquire. Any doubts or questions still here?
Yeah, so if I just understand, I'm going to summarize is what we have done, Marmik, is it fairly for every target we set for every month on month, we can now break down the target into a new user target and a repeat user target, and it makes those targets much more achievable, and hence also allows us to track on a cohort basis what's happening.
Fair. And you'd also understand, right, realistically how much your business can grow. Like I might want to grow it by 50%, but if my marketing spends are the same as the previous month, then until and unless I can reduce my CAC, I can't grow more than the percentage of retention that I get from my previous cohorts. Hi, Apar.
Hi, Marmik. Marmik, very quick question. How do you factor in people who are transacting multiple times in the same month? Is this factored or is it just because it's such a small percentage, it's just not factored in?
So let's say if you have a frequency, right, then let's say you multiply it into 1.1, right? तो यहाँ पे आपको 4 customers कम acquire करने पड़ेंगे.
Got it.
So you multiply this into your frequency, but not when you calculate your cohort. So if you have a very high frequency, you should probably make 2 cohorts, one for orders and one for customers, right? And retention हमेशा customer के number basis पे ही होता है, but कितने customers acquire करने हैं उसके लिए frequency ends up becoming handy.
Got it. ठीक है.
Yeah, which sort of brings me to the second perennial question, right? जो मैंने पहले बताया था, मेरा तो average order value 300-400 रुपए में कैसे पैसे कमाऊंगा? If my CAC is 200-300 rupees, right? थोड़ा margins भी जाता है, salaries भी जाती है. So I try to cover 3 questions, right? Main जो मुझे भी बहुत आते थे. Like I don't recover my marketing spend in the first order, which is very, very usual in your D2C platform. You won't recover your marketing spend in the first order. So how do you calculate if you'll ever make profit on that investment? The second one being, if my CAC is X, how many months does it take to recover my sort of investment, right, on that user? And the third one being, what are the key or important factors that drive your payback period, which is the amount of time it takes for your business to break even on your marketing spend, right? तो यहाँ तक तो काफी simple था. जो उन्हें बताया कि अब हमने 200 कस्टमर एक्वायर किया, उनका ये रिटेंशन था, इतना ऑर्डर्स आ रहा है. Now customers into POV would sort of make it net sales. Net sales is before tax, sorry, after tax, right? उसके मतलब उसके आगे थोड़ा GST और डिस्काउंट लगता है. In case you discount as a brand, if you don't like, we don't discount our new user purchases too much, but on Man Matters or Peabody wise, but let's say once users purchase using a prepaid instrument, we end up giving them a cashback. तो blended ही अभी के लिए रख रहा हूँ. GST plus discount let's say 25% है. ज़्यादा भी हो सकता है, कम भी हो सकता है, to sort of figure out, which will probably give you your GMV, right? Which is oh sorry, ये आपका MRP हो गया basically, right? कि अगर आपको लाख रुपए का धंधा करना है तो 1.25 लाख रुपए के MRP के गुड्स बेचने पड़ेंगे, जिसके ऊपर you get your COGS, right? Which is your first factor. So let's assume that the business has a 30% COGS. Sometimes it can be higher, sometimes it can be lower. So you can retrofit your COGS and figure out, your payback period, etc. Now again, in terms of gross value, 7,500. So you get a gross margin of net sales minus COGS, right? It's gross margins always on net sales and not on GMV. Just something you know. So essentially, over a period of 1 year, right? जो हमने ऐसे लिया है, you make auto suggest हो गया. You make 1,35,000 rupees in your gross margin from that particular cohort, right? And they end up transacting what 2,16,000 rupees. Now, if you want to at different stages of the business or different aspirations that you have, you can sort of decide, right? How do I calculate my payback period? Now, I'm a Gujarati, right? And I've always worked in very operation intensive businesses. So we always want to make money at contribution margin level. But let's say if you're very high growth and you only want to sort of look at it till gross margin levels, then it means that for these 200 users, you can spend 675 rupees to recover on your investment, but this would be fairly misrepresenting until unless you're like Byju's or Vedantu and all these very, very high growth startups, right? Where you have very high repeat and recurring revenue. But regular, very well disciplined business per se, let's say आपके दो मेन फैक्टर्स लगते हैं, राइट? कॉस्ट के, जो आपके फिक्स कॉस्ट होते हैं हर एक ऑर्डर में. एक हो गया आपका logistics cost, which is fixed on every order, and let's say your packaging plus warehousing cost again, which is fixed on every order, right? So let's assume logistics cost is of 65 rupees, which means that on logistics for, oh, something is wrong. Oh, my bad. Okay. Sorry about this. Yeah, on logistics you spend so and so rupees, right? On this cohort, you would spend 28,000 rupees. Second such overhead, which is fixed, goes on for every order, packaging plus warehousing, right? let's assume that this is around 30 rupees. Jitna bhi hoga, you can probably just sort of multiply it with actuals, right? Into 200 orders that you have gotten. Now, your summation of your gross margins, right, minus sum of all your fixed cost essentially gives you something called as contribution CM1 likhte hai, right, which is your contribution margin. Like different people, different companies, different accounting standards, but let's say your contribution margin after deducting all your fixed costs, right, which it means that you would be left with 43,500 rupees from this cohort. Now, which means over a period of 1 year, you're going to earn 93,960 rupees, right, from this particular cohort. So net contribution margin ye ho gaya. But this is again not your net contribution margin, right? Because you're assuming that you would end up getting your repeat users for free. Now, for the sake of simplicity, let's just assume that you spend 10 rupees to acquire every repeat user that you get, okay? Or to get every repeat customer on board. So net contribution margin for your cohort would be 1,000 rupees. देखो यहाँ पे मैंने रिपीट का जो 10 रुपीज है उसको मैंने वेरिएबल कॉस्ट या मार्केटिंग कॉस्ट में नहीं गिना है, मैंने उसको फिक्स कॉस्ट में गिना है, so that it can give more predictability on understanding when you would sort of break even, right? This is not the most accurate or foolproof method to do it, but this just gives more ease in understanding कब जाके break even होगा. Hi Sahil, what's up?
Hey, sorry, could you repeat what the 10 was?
10 is, let's say, your SMS, WhatsApp, email cost, right, blended to the cohort. Now, इसको मैं fixed cost मान रहा हूँ. This is also variable cost. Like you might probably be sending more messages or more emails, right, than for different cohorts. But अभी के लिए fixed cost में ही मान के चलता है to give more predictability, is what I was saying, right? Which means on this cohort, you would end up earning over a period of 12 months 458 rupees, right? So if you have that sort of investment bandwidth कि आप एक साल तक सोचोगे नहीं क्या हो रहा है कैसे हो रहा है, then in theory you can probably acquire a user at 458 rupees. That's the CAC at which your business sustains at levels that you want to. Now let's say you have a sharper target saying that I want to recover all my costs in 5 months, right? कि नया business है, don't want to put in too much capital per se. So let's say month 5 कहाँ पे आ रहा है? G पे आ रहा है, G. और ये G तक ही होगा फिर, right? Which means you can afford to have a CAC of 369 rupees. Was this too fast? Any doubt still here? Because I can see a lot of confused faces on the screen.
Yeah, so I want to sort of make sure everyone gets this very clearly. Basically, one thing is helping, this entire thing is helping you understand is what is your customer acquisition cost that you can afford to sort of run a sustainable business given your current retention metric numbers, if they look like this. Is that fair, Marmik? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if your CAC is above that certain amount, then most likely you're burning money, and that's something you should be conscious about. And if you're able to, again, which is why then we look at how do we improve that also. But the idea is yes. So questions, and I think the more questions we have, the more engaging it will be for everyone to sort of get that. It's a key concept because you'll be spending most of your money in marketing, and before you do that, you should sort of have these metrics and sort of track this sort of sheet very diligently. So yeah, the two questions, Marmik. So Apar and then
Hi, Marmik. So I missed one part of the conversation. How did you calculate the CAC? What's B5, the number that I can see on your screen?
B5 is the total number of new customers that I've acquired. No? So essentially, मैं इतना contribution margin कमा रहा हूँ over 12 months और इतने new customers हैं. If my outlook, business outlook is that I want to recover my CAC in 12 months, I can spend 458 rupees. If I'm spending more money, then I would probably need to invest more capital into this channel or earn more money from marketplaces where contribution margins are usually higher.
Okay.
Hi, Sneha.
Hi. Can you tell me your B23 formula again? Can you just explain the net CMI? Yeah.
So what I've done is, so I know that my net contribution margin is sum of all my gross margin minus fixed cost, right? What I've done is I've also added repeat cost per purchase as a fixed cost, right? Assuming that you spend money on, hand-holding your user. Let's say if I've acquired 200 users, right? Then you might set up drips that on 5th day, I'll send this WhatsApp message introducing them to my brand. On 30th day, I would send this message. On 25th day, so and so, right? So I'm saying that, and probably you'd keep on sending ad hoc messages to these users as well, right? SMSs ho gaye, emails ho gaye on any of these platforms. So what I mentioned is keep 10 rupees is the fixed cost for acquiring a repeat user for you because you engage with your users as well, right?
And sorry, this 10 rupees is only email and WhatsApp. It's not
email, SMS,
my
WhatsApp.
Facebook ads or anything, right? No, none of that. Just your, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if wo bhi hai, to you can probably, let's say, change it to 50 rupees. Then,
yeah, of course, right? We all do Facebook, Instagram ads and stuff, right?
For repeat users, I mean, it's up to you.
Okay.
We don't really do a lot of.
Okay. So you only engage with them directly through WhatsApp and SMS and stuff, and email them.
Correct.
Okay.
Agar ye zyada karte ho, that means that you'd have lesser room, right, to spend money.
Sure. No, fair. Okay. So fine. So keep that at 10. And sorry, can you go back to B23 again?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So once again, can you just explain this? So this was basically the sum of
all the repeat orders that I've gotten.
Right.
Into 10 rupees, assuming that I spent 10 rupees to get repeat users to purchase from my platform.
Into your contribution margin.
Yeah. Because this is also fixed cost for me.
Okay.
Now, this also doesn't include, let's say, commissions that you would sort of be paying to Shopify.
Yeah, we do. Correct,
right? So let's say agar wo 20% hai. I don't know the Shopify commission structure. But let's say agar wo 10% hai, for example. So then you would probably only want to spend 412 to acquire a user because that is also fixed cost for you.
Sure. And then we'd also have to remove like payment gateway charges, I guess, if you want a very accurate.
Yeah, correct. So payment gateway is something that I would actually put here only.
Okay.
Because कितना 2% रहता है ना?
Yeah, depending. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Pay 2%. So sorry, it's 2% on AOV, not on customers.
Yeah.
Actually paid amount पे रहता है, तो मतलब it's net minus discount. छोड़ो ना, इसी पे रख देता है, वरना बहुत complicated हो जाएगा calculation. Net sale पे डालता है, which is, sorry, not exactly accurate, but it's near accurate.
Okay.
Marmik, we'll have to distribute this between COD and prepaid orders, right? Because COD costs you would have taken into your logistics.
Correct.
Yeah, you'll have to reduce your COD.
Probably, let's say only 30% customers would end up in this particular cohort.
Perfect. 5%, 50% मैं prepaid मान के चल रहा हूँ. ठीक है?
Yeah, absolute reference.
By the way, I don't know if you observed it in your businesses, but what we see is that our repeat users have a much higher prepaid ratio, right? Probably because they trust the brand more. तो उसको मतलब थोड़ा ज्यादा कर देता है कि चलो रिपीट यूजर्स में 70% प्रीपेड कर रहे हैं और न्यू यूजर्स में 50%. So, कम हो गया. बढ़ कैसे गया? Sorry. Yeah. So your blended CAC should be 445 rupees, depending on your outlook. Now, if I get very impatient and for a few categories, let's say you can also split it by categories and products, right? So for a few categories, let's say you might want to recover on your CAC very quickly to know if you want to reinvest and go deeper into that category, right? Okay, for example, on mathematics ka example lete hai. Let's say we had 3 categories at one point of time: hair, performance, and weight, nutrition. These are the 3 categories we started with. So every new category that we launched, our North Star was that we break even quicker, right? Otherwise, it makes lesser sense for us to do all the efforts on R&D, etc., etc. That was the thought process that at least we had.
So maybe also we can just re-summarize the questions which this sheet will answer. So at the top, we sort of
Yeah, sure. So essentially, right, so we've sort of we've sort of covered how, let's say, if you don't recover your marketing spend on the first order, how would you calculate if you would ever make profit on your investment, right? अब इसमें मैं brand marketing cost भी ऐसा आपको डालनी हो डाल सकते हो, right? Let's say the costs. So this is one way, at least we look at it, and it might not be accurate, but again indicative. Let's say आपने 4 लाख रुपए brand marketing cost कर दी. So आप 12 month का purview ले रहे हो. So at least one way you can go about it is sort of divide this number by 12 as well, right? कि 33,000 rupees आपने 12 महीनों में distribute कर दिया, which would mean that अब आपका contribution margin हो जाएगा 55,000 something rupees, right? And you can probably plan to sort of put your performance marketing CAC to be lower than that if you want to be even more disciplined, right? And you want to factor in brand marketing or other fixed costs like salaries, for example. But you have a team of 5 members and your salary cost is 4 lakh rupees. उसके हिसाब से you can probably apportion that into 12 months as well based on your outlook, right? So Yogya, I don't recover, how would I ever make investment? If my CAC is X, how many months does it take to recover your investment? So for example, if your CAC is 300 rupees, right, then you probably would recover your investment by the 7th or 8th month, right? If your CAC is 200 rupees, then you make your money in the first order itself because your contribution margin is 42,500, right? So on and so forth. As I was mentioning, the third question that sort of gets answered here, which is what are the key factors that are important to drive my payback period, right? At the end of the day, what I've observed is, hi Sahil, what's up? Up mute pe ho.
Sorry, how are you figuring that out so quickly? What numbers were you looking at?
For?
You said if it was 200, I'd make it back in 1 month. If it was
because my contribution margin is 42,500 rupees, right? So essentially, in the first month itself,
you're doing 200.
Yeah, you make 212 rupees, right? So if your CAC is 200 rupees, you'd recover it in the first month itself, assuming no brand marketing spends or other fixed costs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the logic.
Thank you.
No problem. Hey, Sainath.
Hi, Marmik. So, Marmik, I want to ask the question on GST plus discount, right? So, you reverse calculated your MRP rather than the other way around. Like, let's say if your MRP was 500, rather than dividing and taking out the GST discount and the GST and then your margins, you have done the other way around, right? You've built up the margin. So, in this case, like if 18% is the GST, you just consider 7% as your effective discount?
Yeah. For this sake of calculation, the actuals might differ.
Got it. Because generally, let's say the margins also you give out is like 30%, or the discount is anywhere, an average can be about 20%. So you just put in that combined with 18% and then build over your MRP.
Yeah. So which is the third question, right? Which I'll get to later on.
Got it.
Yeah. Hi, Sneha.
Hi. Can you just add the 212 calculation in this sheet when we have access to this sheet later, so that we kind of remember? Yeah. Thanks. That's all.
Yeah. But going back right to the third question now, what are the factors that sort of drive profitability for the cohort? Now we discount वाला थोड़ा hot topic है. So let's say अगर मेरा और discount instead of मैंने जो 7% लिया है, if that were 20%, right? And let's say GST 15%. So to do a net sale of 1 lakh rupees, मेरा GMV, I mean my MR, मुझे 1,35,000 का माल बेचना होता, right? In this case, my contribution margin per cohort, right, जो ये 212 rupees था that you were getting back on the first month, reduces to 198, right? So you'd want a sort of healthier mix on the discount, or you'd want to take that into consideration when you're deciding what CAC is right for your business, right? ये 25 का 35 कर दिया, 35 का 25 किया, तो अब देखो 30 रुपए हम ज्यादा खर्च सकते हैं just by sort of reducing the discount, right? And let's say if you cannot reduce the discount due to various factors, then you sort of reduce your CAC, right, to make more sense or semblance out of what you're doing. Now, the second place, right, would end up being your AOV, because your logistics and packaging costs are sort of fixed to the orders and not the order value, right? Except for payment gateway charge, which is sort of correlated to your order value. But let's say अगर मेरा AOV 600 रुपया होता, right, 500 के बदले, then my effective CAC would sort of increase to 577 rupees, what I can afford, right? Because your contribution margins increase, right? So AOV ends up becoming another key factor for you to sort of decide how much time it would take for your business to break even, right? 445 का सीधा हो गया था 577, right? So your risk appetite just suddenly increased by 130 rupees per customer, right? The third one on this calculation ends up becoming retention, right? कि अगर मेरा यहाँ पे ना 20% के बदले में 25, 23, 22, 20, 17, let's say my retention sort of stabilizes at 12%, okay? Then I would necessarily again, exact number आ गया by coincidence, but I would again, my sort of risk appetite or CAC threshold increases to 577, right? But same number है तो नहीं, ये 500 का 500 ही है. This is not increased. So it's just double checking the formula. So that means that, let's say if you increase your retention, then again you can probably invest more money on customer acquisition per se, right? Because it means that your predictability in revenue increases. Now, what I'll do is I'm marking this in green, so that let's say when this sheet is shared with you, when you download an Excel or clone this you know what areas you can play around with, right? To sort of understand how your unit economics would work, right? इसके साथ हम play around कर सकते हैं. AOV is sort of linked here. ताकि आप कहीं कहीं पे भी change करोगे अब हर जगह change हो जाएगा. Again, right? If let's say you operated at 20% COGS, if you were McDonald's, then again this increases to 570 rupees, right? Because again you are making more money. So इसको भी मैं green में कर देता हूँ. और again यहाँ से इतना ज़्यादा delta नहीं आता, but let's say if you have a lot of warehouses, or let's say if you can negotiate a cheaper rate with your logistics provider, your CAC capacity or threshold can increase by 10 rupees. But you can again plug in your numbers, right? So on and so forth. So each of the fixed costs that go into your business, and optimizing each of your fixed cost or your order values sort of gives you more leeway to spend money on acquisition. That's one very simple formula or rule of thumb. But yeah, any questions still here?
Hi, Marmik. Does it make sense to subdivide this into subcategories? Because the kind of business that I run, one category is very high OV, about $1,200, but the other category is about $500. And there is no, there are no customers in my business going from one category to the other. मतलब जो वो खरीदता वही खरीदता है, even though the repeat rates are slightly higher. So does it make sense to divide? Because blended won't make sense for me.
100% it makes sense to subdivide. In fact, even we subdivide it to a product level for our portfolio. Like, because let's say there are a few products on which we acquire more than 1,000 users a day, that has a PNL of its own, right? So we go as deep as product. Yeah, but category 100% you should. So I'll segue into, let's say आपको product level जानना है, right? Now Shopify वगैरह पे तो मतलब I don't think it's very intuitive to figure out कि आपका month-on-month retention क्या है based on this calculation, right? So what I'll do is I'll just sort of take you through how we can do this calculation on your Shopify data. Okay. तो मैंने क्या किया है? I've just taken the liberty to make this sort of earlier itself, where these are all the columns that you would easily get, right, from your Shopify dashboard or WooCommerce, Magento, आप जो भी use करते हो ना. तो एक हो गया आपका order ID, which is important. Second one is your phone number, right? Your unique identifier, whatever it is for you. It could be email or phone number. Just 1 second. There's a question in the chat. Okay, Sheetal. I hope you do not get a lot of questions when you go through the recording. But yeah, so आपको order ID मिल जाएगा आपके export में. Phone number या email ID जो भी आपका unique identifier हो, I would recommend keeping phone number as a unique identifier, having that sort of OTP authorization, right, to ensure that लोग बहुत fraud नहीं कर रहे. Because at a scale of 50 to 100 users, you won't see a lot of problem. But let's say when you scale up, and it's if you don't have this guardrail where you're checking for OTPs, etc., your RTO would just end up skyrocketing because you reach out to all these very random people, right, who have no intention to order, but because they can, they will, right? But that's a different topic. But then उनका date of acquisition, date ले लिया, date से month आ जाता है, right? Date का ही formula लगा के ना, date, year and month जो भी हो. अभी मैंने month ले लिया. Then let's say product, right? कि my business has कितने products है? 2 है, A and B at this point of time, right? This is again something that would be easily available on your Shopify, e-commerce, data, etc. Now, each of these guys would have ordered from the website itself. But let's say if you have Amazon or Nykaa आप FBA नहीं करते या नायका के तो खुद ही भेजने पड़ते हैं, और अगर आपके पास उनका भी फोन नंबर डेटा आ जाता है तो आप वो इस पे डाल सकते हो, राइट? These 4 fields, these are the only 4 fields that are actually required. Okay, and and fifth is obviously the channel. Now what I've done here is I've sort of tried to figure out what is the first channel and the first product that they ordered from, right? Because आपका cohort ऐसे ही बनेगा, right? Based on either what was the first channel that they ordered from or what was the first product that they ordered, right? Now one very simple, another too many rule of thumbs, and I'm sorry about that, but for another rule of thumb is that when you do a VLOOKUP, it always returns the first value that is available, okay, in your array. So what I've done is I've sort of ran a VLOOKUP to see which was this user's first channel, right? So B4, I'm looking up the phone number. In this range B2E, where fourth column is my channel, तो यहाँ पे आ गया वेबसाइट, राइट? अगर मैं इसको नायका कर दूंगा तो हर जगह कस्टमर फोन नंबर 1 का फर्स्ट चैनल अब नायका हो जाएगा, इवन दो his customer 1's second order is on website, his first channel is still tagged or marked as Nika. It's just how VLOOKUP works, right? And essay first product, right? Now, regardless of what A is ordering in your second or third order, it gets tagged to product A because that is the first product that customer A ordered, right? Now, how you end up calculating retention from this is just running a countif function on a pivot table. तो मैं insert pivot table करूँगा, मेरा data range A3 से G76, perfect. Hi Sahil.
Hey, how do you handle situations where there's multiple products in the first order? Will I get duplicated?
So देखो कोई भी एक ही प्रोडक्ट को असाइन हो सकता है, ठीक है? तो at least what we do is we give priority to a product. Let's say I have 2 products. Let's take a real life example. Let's say I have on Man Matters we sell hair gummies, and let's say we sell minoxidil. Now because we sell more hair gummies, we give a preference to hair gummies and it comes first on the list, right? So तो उसको टैग हो जाता है, अदरवाइज इट्स ओके इवन इफ यू नो दे एंड अप गेटिंग टैग टू मिनॉक्सिडिल, बहुत ऐसे माड़ा नहीं है बिकॉज बिहेवियर चेंज नहीं होता. इफ अ कस्टमर इज ऑर्डरिंग 2 products in the same order, they would more or less always be very closely linked, right? Like Apar had mentioned that they sell 2 categories and he's seen that one category has a significant higher lifetime value than the other. तो उनके कार्ड्स भी काफी ऐसे ही होता है, बहुत कम लोग ये दोनों चीजें एक साथ लेंगे, राइट? बट
is the deciding factor to choose the product the best seller or the one that you want to actually monitor?
the one that you actually want to sort of, हमारे केस में वो दोनों सेम है. तो
got it, thank you.
But yeah, so अब यहाँ पे है, हम कहाँ थे? हाँ, हमने पिवट टेबल बना दिया, राइट? सो पिवट टेबल में आप रोज में फोन नंबर डालोगे, right? So these are all the different phone numbers that I've ordered on my website. I will remove totals, okay? And हमने column में month डाल दिया, right? And let's say values में order ID का count. अभी sum आएगा, sum को count कर देता है. If your order IDs are alphanumeric, तो by default ही count आ जाता है. Now अब आपको हर एक customer का essentially you have their कुंडली, right? कि phone number 1 ordered once in Jan, order once in Feb. Phone number 2 order once in Jan, order once in Feb. And because I was the one who made this data, I will see a lot of these things, but where you know एक साथ सारे phone number बाजू बाजू में 1111 आ रहा है, यहाँ पे pattern बन रहा है 1111 का. Actual data में नहीं होगा, so don't. But yeah, so you can probably figure out, right? And then these are the phone numbers that only came in the month of March. तो एसेंशियली ये मार्च के न्यू कस्टमर्स है, ये मार्च का M1 कोहॉर्ट है, और ये मार्च पे M2 कोहॉर्ट है जैन का, ये फेब का M1 कोहॉर्ट है, ये जैन का M1 कोहॉर्ट है, राइट? नाउ हाउ डू यू एक्चुअली show this in a waterfall chart, right? The jargon term for this is a waterfall chart. So hi Sahil.
Sorry, I don't know if this
Huh.
is a dumb question or relevant, but is this tool best applied to sort of a forward-looking analysis, or can you do this for your historical?
This is historical only, right? I'm only looking at historical data to see what my actual retention is, right? This,
Oh, right. My
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Okay. Abhi this is, these are my months. Again, these are my months. And I'm trying to link as many cells as possible so that when you work on your actual data, it's easier for you. Now, as I'd mentioned, we want to figure out, we want to put an Excel formula which says that these are my new customers. These are customers of Jan who come in Feb. These are customers of Jan who come in March. So how would you do that? Right? तो ये तो काफी simple है. It's equal to count if मेरा पूरा B है जो भी greater than 0, right? अभी देखोगे तो 16 है, यहाँ पे कितना है, यहाँ पे 15 है, 16 इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि ये मंथ को भी काउंट कर रहा है, तो लेट्स जस्ट पुट -1. अगर आप एक बार है ना, when you're doing it on your data, just check if you're doing it on Google Sheets, you can just blindly copy this formula. If you are doing it on Excel, you might just want to cross check if it is being counted as one or not, right? अभी मुझे फेब में ये जानना है कि मेरे जैन के कितने लोग वापस आए, राइट? तो हो गया, मैं फिर से काउंट इफ्स लगाऊंगा. सो नाउ आई वांट जैन में भी ना आयो, सॉरी जैन में भी आयो एंड फेब में भी आयो, राइट? इसको मैं फ्रीज कर देता हूँ, तो 6 लोग आ जाते हैं. This is this 6, this is 5 because it is again counting 8, right? तो मेरे मार्च का ये फॉर्मूला इजीली हो गया. एसेंशियली जो जैन में भी आया और मार्च में भी आया उसका मैं काउंट इफ लगा रहा हूँ. ओके, सो आई एम गेटिंग 4 यूजर्स हियर जो यहाँ पे काफी क्लियरली दिख रहा है. नाउ you want to sort of see people who is for calculating new customers of the month of February. How you go about it? Sorry, how you end up going about it is people who have never come in Jan, right? Jan should be blank and Feb should be greater than 0, right? तो अब मेरे 20 new customers आ गए. Is the number 20? Correct. This is 20, right? इसमें -1 इसलिए नहीं करना पड़ रहा क्योंकि मैंने for condition लगा ना that Jan should be blank. This is not blank. तो यहाँ पे ये लगाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. एंड इसको फ्रीज कर देते हैं, सॉरी, और इसको फ्रीज कर देते हैं. मार्च में कौन यूजर आया जो जैन में नहीं आया, फेब में आया है और मार्च में आया है, राइट? तो 7 यूजर बन जाता है. अगेन एक बार देख लेते हैं 7 ही है क्या. 7 ही है. परफेक्ट. सो द फॉर्मूला वर्क्स एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, राइट? और सिमिलरली अगर हमें मार्च के नए कस्टमर ढूंढना है तो बी में कुछ नहीं हुआ, सी में कुछ नहीं हुआ, or D is greater than 0, right? March is greater than 0. Why is the customer? Can I just freeze this? Yeah, 22 सच में 22 है क्या, देख लेते हैं. सच में 22 है. Now I guess if you want to go through it and just calculate, right, कि सच में हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा, what you can do is you can just sort of paste it as values to a different sheet, apply a filter and check, right, कि this should be blank, this should be blank, this should be 1, तो कितना आ रहा है 22, right? This is one way to manually check if your formula is correct or not. Okay, अभी के लिए मैं delete कर देता हूँ. Which essentially means that your month one retention, ये जो हम waterfall बना रहे थे अभी, right, to understand कितना percentage retention है अपना. तो फर्स्ट मंथ का तो 100 ही रहता है, तो वो ऐसे कैसा रखेंगे. सेकेंड मंथ का हो गया 33, थर्ड मंथ का है 26, और यहाँ पे फर्स्ट मंथ का हो गया 35. बढ़िया धंधा है. So अरे sorry about that. अभी अपन देख लेते हैं, एक सेकेंड. अभी अपन एक फिल्टर डाल देते हैं, जैसे वो आपने बताया था कि अब मुझे प्रोडक्ट लेवल कैसे देखना है या कैटेगरी लेवल कैसे देखना है, राइट? तो या चैनल लेवल कैसे देखना है. अभी प्रोडक्ट डालते हैं, फर्स्ट प्रोडक्ट पे किया. अभी फिल्टर कैसे डालता है, हाँ, यहाँ पे showing just A. So you'll see that your product A retention is 38% in month 1, 40% in month 1 for Feb, मतलब 38% ballpark. And your product B retention is 29% and 30%. So product A has a higher retention than product B, right? So you might want to acquire more of product A rather than product B. Now, why we use this first? हमने फर्स्ट प्रोडक्ट पे इसलिए किया है बिकॉज अगर हम हर एक प्रोडक्ट का फिल्टर ले लेते हैं बेस्ड ऑन देयर ऑर्डर, राइट, देन द डेटा वुड लुक वेरी डिफरेंट बिकॉज इट इज ओनली चेकिंग प्रोडक्ट टू प्रोडक्ट रिटेंशन एंड नॉट एट अ कस्टमर कोहॉर्ट लेवल. इसमें देखो प्रोडक्ट ए का रिटेंशन बहुत कम है, 13 and 30, right, as opposed to I think 38 and 40 that we'd seen earlier. And this is because a bunch of people who ordered product A in the first order have ordered product B in their second order, right? But आप जब आपके सारे calculations होते हैं वो customer cohort level पे होता है, not from a product to product perspective, right? Which is why it's important that in your formula you use first product and not the product that has been ordered in a particular order, right? And you can probably even do it by channels, so on and so forth. But any doubts on this?
So I think this answers Sainath's question, right, Sainath? Which has basically how do you use Shopify to be able to sort of get your
Absolutely
retention?
It does.
So I want to sort of make sure for everyone, right, not just what Shopify shows you as a percentage number of repeat users, that's not entirely accurate. You need to understand what is your repeat happening on every cohort level basis. And if you get these numbers, then Marmik's other sheets become self-explanatory or plugged in, and then you sort of get your visibility on your CAC and lifetime value. Fair, Marmik? Yeah.
Yeah.
So any questions on this front? I know, anyways, all of us will have the recording of this video. We'll have these sheets to sort of rebuild this ourselves. But if you sort of have doubts, it's better to also answer or ask right now, because this is very, very valuable in sort of doing this for your business once and then on a regular basis. So yeah.
At least as a business, we do this every week. मैं तो और ज़्यादा paranoid हूँ, तो मैं तो हर 2-3 दिन check करता हूँ कैसे cohorts move कर रहे हैं, which I won't recommend until unless you also want to have like low
And
sugar,
Marmik,
high BP.
one conversation we always have is between cohorts was na ki, मतलब, should this cadence be on a monthly basis, should be on a
Yeah.
weekly basis, should be on a quarterly basis? Can you sort of help them think through that for that function?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do it much more frequently than I should be. But so let's say when you're making your plan, right? Or let's say your EOP or whatever your annual operating plan or how much ever your outlook is. So this chart, right? When you're setting up targets, the cadence for that should be the how frequently you want to revise your targets and see where you're going, where you're not, right? Uh, this one, right? This chart is something that you should look every week because, and I'll tell you why. Let's say अगर मेरा first month में ही मेरा month one 20% के बदले in 15 days you figure out कि 10% ही आने वाला है, right? So now instead of acquiring 210 new users, I have to acquire 230 new customers, right? So let's say if you track this number every week कि आपका कितना move हो रहा है and then आप simple average extrapolation कर सकते हो कि if in the first 7 days I've acquired, if in the first 5 days I've acquired 5% users, so in 30 days 30% will come back, 25% will come back, right? So you do it sort of every week to figure out and just divide by 7, multiply by 30, divide by 14, multiply by 30. Jitne bhi din hue, right? I would recommend doing it at least once a week to figure out if your retention is going as per plan. Because if it's not, and if you want to meet your targets, then you would probably have to acquire more new customers, right? Which is why tracking this becomes very important on a weekly basis to see where you stand against the plan that you made. Right. So I would recommend doing it at least once a week, or if once a week is too much of a bandwidth sink, then twice a month, right? Which is once in 2 weeks, to sort of know where to course correct, where not to. But because this is such a simple Excel, all you have to do is import your Shopify WooCommerce data and sort of just change your pivot table range, right? बाकी का सब अपने आप आ जाता है. So it's not a lot of effort to do this. ये एक बार महीने के beginning में सारे formula extend कर देने होता है. But once you have it, your life just becomes very simple. Like it's really possible to do it once a week. But in case it's not, you should at least review it twice a month or once in 2 weeks.
Great.
Yeah. Any doubts still here? I would. Hey, hi Ayushi.
Hey, hi Manu. I think I might have a silly question, but like, let's say if a customer is buying product A in the first month, and he's buying product A and product B in the second month. So that product B, how do we consider him? Will it be a new
product
customer?
A only? Because that's the product that we've acquired them from, right? That sort of decides your acquisition strategy, right? So I would just tag that customer to a product A user, even though the customer's ordered a product B in the future.
Okay, so like when we are making the cohort for product B, so that customer won't be tagged in that particular.
It won't be, right? Because हमने first product ordered पे ही किया है filter, and not on all products.
Got it. Okay.
अच्छा, मैं समझ गया था. आपका डाउट है कि अगर इसने A और B दोनों किया है तो how do you ensure कि A का A में रहे, right? And B में ना चला जाए?
Correct? No, I just want to understand like how we should look at it. मतलब, let's say I'm making the cohort for product B. So this customer, I haven't spent anything extra on this customer, but still I have got the order. So how do I make sure that he's?
No, you shouldn't. Because this is how you define your acquisition strategy, which is why you shouldn't consider that user to be someone from product B at all. Otherwise, your life just gets more complicated than it should be. Like It just gets tougher to find the answer.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Hi, Sahil.
Hey, is there any way we can use this to figure out like affinity products or like sort of use this data to figure out, okay, this is a more worthy upsell, cross sell?
So for that, what you would want to do to see cross sell, right? Good, yeah. I don't know if this will be accurate. इससे क्रॉस सेल अपसेल तो इतना नहीं आता. उसके लिए you would probably want to do something else. And
No, the thought just came from the fact that, yeah,
Correct.
okay, product A the first time and then A plus
Yeah.
B. But that happens for like a large percentage of users. It's not A plus suddenly.
But then you wouldn't want to look at it this way. So how you would want to go about it is यहाँ पे मैंने प्रोडक्ट डाल दिया, यहाँ पे मैंने मंथ के बदले फर्स्ट प्रोडक्ट डाल दिया. नहीं, ऐसे नहीं आ रहा. क्रॉस सेल कैन नॉट बी, उसके लिए थोड़ा ज्यादा टाइम लग जाएगा टू फिगर आउट. आई मीन आई नो हाउ टू. आई थॉट इजीली पिवट टेबल से प्लग एंड प्ले हो जाएगा, बट आई डोंट थिंक
You know how to, as in like you still manipulate this model to get it, or
yeah,
is it
yeah.
an exercise?
Correct. Yeah. You can do it, but then it's just too long and time consuming. But essentially what you can do is simply on this data, right? Pivot table लगाने की जरूरत भी नहीं है. Just see first product A and actual product B. अब आपको पता है that let's say for एक first month भी डाल लेते हैं, which is we look up for this phone number what is the first month. ठीक है. तो फर्स्ट मंथ हमने ले लिया जनवरी, फर्स्ट प्रोडक्ट ले लिया A. So अभी you have 13 users. Out of these 13 users, how many have ordered B? It is 2.
Okay.
Right. So this is your cross sell. One very simple way to go about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. But coming on to the last point, right, where I try to answer कि अब आपको रिटेंशन पता चल गया कैसे कैलकुलेट करना है. अब आपको ये भी पता चल गया कि आपका CAC कितना हो सकता है. The last point ends up becoming, let's say if you have a CAC or a purchase figure in mind, right? How do you sort of backtrack the number of impressions that you need to serve, right? Now, how to serve the impression is a different calculation of its own, and I think that has already been covered, right, by now. Sharan?
Yeah. So across channels.
Correct. Right. But अब इस पे भी हम मैथ्स कैसे लगा सकते हैं कि अब हमें पता है हमारा टारगेटिंग ऐसा होना चाहिए, क्रिएटिव ऐसा होना चाहिए, बट मैथमेटिकली कितने इंप्रेशन डालना है. हाउ डू यू डू योर मीडिया प्लानिंग, राइट? लेट्स ट्राई टू फिगर दैट आउट एज वेल, राइट? सो अपना इंप्रेशन हो गया. नाउ योर journey, right, from an impression to purchase can sort of broken down into, let's say, impressions. CTR hata ke clicks aaya, right? Now not everyone who clicks ends up visiting your page, right? So let's say page views, landing page views. Okay, sorry. अपना add to cart वगैरह भी होता है, बट अपन वेबसाइट का ब्लेंडेड कन्वर्जन ही लेता है. तो आया आपका परचेज, राइट? CPM is cost per 1000 impression. उसके बेसिस पे आप फिगर आउट करोगे कितना आपका कॉस्ट है. Add your CAC, right? Now let's say there are 2 types of channels, right? Even in getting on your direct to consumer platform, One where there's a real-time auction that happens, which is your FP or Google, right? Where there is real-time bidding, right? And second one is influencers, right? Which sort of works like traditional media, where there is a fixed cost कि एक influencer है वो ₹1,00,000 मांगेंगे उसके इतने views आएंगे तो उस पे से इतने clicks वगैरह होते हैं, right? Now you know that your अब आपको 100 परचेज लेके आना है, ठीक है? 100 purchases आपके business को लेके आना है. Now let's say your website has a conversion rate of 4%, right? That means you would have to get 2,500 people visiting your landing page, right? Assuming that 80% people who sort of click on your ad visit your landing page, you come up with this figure, right? That you would need 3,125 clicks, right? Assuming that you have a 1% CTR, it boils down to 3,12,500 impressions that you need to serve, right? To get 100 purchases. अब आपका cost per CPM sort of ends up being fixed. कभी-कभी आप reels जैसे inventories में देखोगे तो 40 rupees होता है, बाकी 100 rupees होता है. If you're in a very competitive audience और आप सिर्फ मुंबई में साउथ मुंबई में कर रहे हो या साउथ दिल्ली में एडवर्टाइज कर रहे हो, इंदिरा नगर में कर रहे हो, बैंगलोर में, then again it's very expensive to advertise it. So let's assume 120 का CPM है, right? Which would mean that I am spending 37,500 rupees, right? मैंने क्या किया, 3,12,000 impressions है, divide by 1,000 into your CPM 120, which is 37,500. आपका CAC हो गया 100 रुपए. Sorry, 375 rupees, right? So this is assuming you have 375 CAC पे आ जाएगा. Now this is we are sort of back calculating the number of impressions that you require to get at a CAC that you desire. अपना desirable CAC तो कितना था यहाँ पे? 437. तो life is simple. But let's say अगर अपना desirable CAC 200 होता तो देखो CPM तो fixed रहता है, right? So अब हर एक चीज चेंज करने का अलग अलग तरीका होता है. CPM अगर आपका बहुत ज्यादा है अभी तो you can probably target on lower CPM inventories, which is Instagram Explore हो गया, Reels हो गया, so on so forth, right? Conversion is completely up website पे कैसे you can gamify your experience to get more users to sort of order from you. Landing page view to click, again make your website faster because you'd be on a Shopify or a WooCommerce store which is not custom built. इस पे इतना control नहीं रहता अपना. Until and unless थोड़ा सा if you're showing your ads on Facebook videos, you will see that very few people actually end up coming to your landing page. People who click, right? CTR is again based on a creative, right? तो ये हो गया अपना. How do you sort of go about figuring out, right? अगर आपको 200 CAC लाना होता तो आप 3-4 चीजें कर सकते हो. या तो आप अपना CPM कम कर दो, 60 rupees कर दो, right? या आप अपना कन्वर्जन रेट डबल कर दो, राइट? या अपना CTR बढ़ा दो, डबल कर दो. So this is how you figure out what are the levers in the funnel that you can pull to make the cost work for you, right? Everything that is mentioned in green here can sort of be influenced by you through different methods that you would have learned across other sessions, but this is how you how that equation fits in mathematically from a cost perspective. Okay, and second is अपना ट्रेडिशनल मीडिया हो गया. अब आपका इन्फ्लुएंसर है, इन्फ्लुएंसर ने बोला मैं, आप उस पे कैसे फिगर आउट कर सकते हैं कि टेक आउट कि उनके पिछले कुछ वीडियोस के कितने व्यूज थे ऑन एन एवरेज. सो लेट्स से 1 लाख व्यूज आते हैं इन्फ्लुएंसर के, राइट? एंड उसने बोल दिया दैट माय कॉस्ट इज फिक्स्ड कि मैं 2,000 रुपीज 20,000 रुपीज लूंगी आपसे. ओके, सो यू सॉर्ट ऑफ फिगर आउट थ्रू data that you already have कि मैं क्या कहता है? If you've done influencer activities in the past, you can figure out कि कितना CTR आएगा. Let's assume 3% आता है, right? तो आपको आएंगे 300 clicks. अब यहाँ पे तो 100% ही रहेगा because you don't know. I mean, everyone who clicks lands on your website, right? This is something you can track through UTM parameters, right? तो अब ये हो गया 300. अब आपको पता है आपका वेबसाइट का कन्वर्जन 4% है, तो आपके परचेज हो गए 12, right? Which means that your CAC would be 1666 rupees. So essentially what this means is that you can't give 20,000 rupees to an influencer who is only going to get you 1 lakh views, right? So you'd probably want to reduce it to, let's say, 10,000, or ensure that your placement is such in the video that 5% people click on it, right? And they land on a page where you see a higher conversion, ka thoda high rehta hai 7, then your CAC would sort of fit, right? But this is how you sort of end up deciding how much you would want to pay for every view that you get, right? And figure out if the channel is going to work for you or not. जब आपको पता है कि इतने हमें न्यू कस्टमर्स बढ़ा के लेके आना है, but what does it mean? मुझे इतने लोगों को अपनी impression दिखानी पड़ेगी, right? And it might just be that at some point, at one point of time, your advertising would become expensive because you sort of exhausted your addressable market. So uske baad you can probably go slower on your growth, right? Or build more adjacent categories. But yeah, this is how you can figure out what are the number of impressions, or what is the cost of money that you can pay to your influencers to make sense from a economics perspective.
Yeah, and I think this Marmik can be applied to every other channel, right? Any channel, source,
correct.
Anything which you use, the same format can be sort of
correct. So I put, which is why I broken it down into 2 parts. One is where you have real-time bidding, and second is where you have fixed costs, right? कि अब जैसे अब influencer वो तो पैसे लेगा ही ना अपना वीडियो भेजने का. You can't say that if you get, I'll pay you per view, right? You pay them a fixed cost. So this is how you sort of back calculate. In real-time bidding में तो हमें पता ही है, all these factors are under your control.
So this is a point-in-time calculation, right? How frequently are you revising this based on like how you
revise it at all?
Okay.
So this is a point-in-time calculation. Probably once a month to see if I can get costs, right? Like it might just be that my website has become slower, right? And I'm not converting enough users. Then I would probably want to, play around with other factors to balance my CAC to what is acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah. This is in particularly very useful when you want to course correct, right? In the middle of the month, कि हमने ये plan किया था but ये हो नहीं रहा. So you can just break it down into these 4-5 aspects in the funnel and take corrective actions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
And Marmik, I had a question. So would this also work on, let's say, Amazon advertising?
No. Actually, it would though. So in Amazon advertising, you have your cost per click and you have your number of clicks and number of purchases, right?
Yeah.
So it would actually work on Amazon advertising as well.
Okay.
But let's say on Amazon, I think you would have lesser control on your CPM. So you directly start on clicks because it's CPC bidding.
Got it.
Like it's real-time bidding on clicks and not
clicks.
impressions.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries.
I have a question with also in the group also. How many of you guys, now that you've sort of seen this versus before, how was it being tracked? I'd love to hear from this. But yeah, sort of maybe Apar also. I think Apar also had sort of shared at the beginning of the session. Ki, I know I want to sort of track retention, but I don't know how to track or between cohorts. Love to hear your thoughts. Like how this sort of could help you. From that, because we've done this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things I got very clear is how to sort of do that across cohorts. The only number that I was tracking till now was कि Shopify मेरे को दिखा रहा है 30% orders मेरे हर महीने repeat customers से आ रहे हैं. But I think the deep dive that I needed, instead of me doing all the hit and trial method, this gave me a very clear picture on how to go about doing it month on month, cohort wise. That's something that I think gave me a lot of clarity today.
And sure, I think it was amazing because we used to just take this intuitive bets, okay, this influencer is coming, let's do barter, let's do pay them 5K or 10K, right? It was not at all linked to an objective of what my CAC is or what kind of purchase I need to achieve from this person, right? It was just like, okay, we're creating content, or we are assuming or hoping that we get sales from this collaboration, but this actually puts measure to that. So I think and it's cohesive, right? It's cohesive to everything that you're doing. So I think that's what this model has helped. And I think we'll need another session where we all create our own, Excels and get back to Marmik to understand, if it's right what we're doing.
I have a follow-up thought, Sainath, directly addressed to you. When you said you worked with influencers, we just started working with influencers. One thing that I don't know what metrics to track, kitna conversion hoga, because this is just the beginning for us. How do you sort of benchmark one influencer against the other before even trying it out with them? Is there a way to do it? Marmik, I mean, your thoughts here will also be very helpful.
I think Marmik has just shown that, right? So, based on their previous engagements, I see every time an influencer really tries to pitch to you, they talk about the previous engagement, that they've gathered, right? And this kind of shows you how to really validate, their let's say past data as to saying, okay, what was the clicks that they've got versus the impression that generated, and if really the matches with your goal.
Correct.
Marmik, could you share? I'll share the problem statement that I'm facing, especially with respect to the influencers. So we worked with about 20 odd YouTube influencers. About 8 gave great results. But those 8, I had no way to predict out of those 20 which 8 would give great results. So now I know I've benchmarked those 8 ka number, in future walon mein I'm gonna sort of benchmark against those 8 ka results. But then how do you sort of put it back into this table? Ki which are the influences which are going to work for you?
So let's say for influencers, right? So influence में देखो 2 चीजें होती है. एक होता है 3 होती है. एक होता है उनका click through rate, which you know through UTMs, right? Never track coupon codes. वो आपको UTM से उनका clicks पता चल गया. Second हो गया कि आप कितने लोगों को convert कर पा रहे हो, which gives you an indication of the quality of the audience, right? And third है आप जो वो लोग charge करते हैं कि हम 10,000 रुपए charge करेंगे, which you can't play around with, but this is your cost aspect, right? So, and then what you can do is you can say, this was this category of influencer. It could be a lifestyle influencer. It could be something as silly as a daily vlogger, right? So you, over a period of, let's say 2 to 3 months, when you've done 20, 30 such activities, you can figure out CTRs for every category, right? You can figure out what is the conversion rate for every category and then benchmark other categories against it.
No, so follow-up question is, let's say we want to work with a particular influencer without doing a trial with them. How do I know unka CTR kitna hoga? It's just I won't, right?
No. Then you take average of whatever you got earlier.
And then say ki isse upar hai ya isse niche hai.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Moita.
Thanks, Marmik. This was a great session. For a founder who's very in the food industry, and I joined the food industry because I have a passion to create recipes. When people told us that make these cohorts, I was like, kaise hoga? Do I need to hire someone for this? So this is a very nice Excel. I think it's a more one-time investment. Jahan aap ye bana lo, and then you keep tracking it and adding keep data. Now my just small question is, so suppose we put in all our data from Jan till now, and then we just keep adding our latest, like suppose if we track it on a bi-monthly basis, then 2 weeks का data हम नीचे अपने sample data में add करते रहे, और हम उसको extrapolate करके measure करते रहे, right?
Correct. यहाँ पे जाके बस range change करना है. कहाँ पे? यहाँ पे.
Okay, हाँ ठीक है, got it.
Yeah.
So very, very helpful. Thank you for this.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, Aditya.
Hey, Marmik. Marmik, I have a couple of questions. One, on the cohort retention Excel that you made from the pivot, do you have any benchmarks? I mean, especially if it's for the apparel industry or even general, the smile curve that is getting generated with the kind of repeat kind of coming down over the months, what is a good number to target over a month on month in terms of retention?
Uh, I don't have benchmarks. Look, I look at this. What is my sort of recovery on CAC? Right. As long as I can recover my CAC, I mean, at least I personally do not try to overanalyze कि बढ़ रहा है, कम हो रहा है. I'm very objective that way as an individual, and just makes life simpler.
Okay, and when you say recover the CAC, it can be over the lifetime of the user or in a certain period of time?
Depends. We check it. We want to recover as much as we can within 6 to 12 months. So वो हमारा predefined lifetime है.
Okay, so as long as you recover within 6 to 12 months, then it's like a good channel, etc., to kind of keep.
Yeah.
Okay. And second question was like the cohorts, etc., that you've created. Do you also have like a build up on that to quickly calculate the LTV to CACs?
It's here, no? So this is your LTV. So LTV is the net contribution margin that you would acquire, right, from the cohort. And CAC se divide kar do. In fact, we go a level deeper, and so on GA you get, right, what transaction ID pe ki UTM source kya tha for every transaction ID. So we check CAC LTV by channel. Because we know that this order ID came from Facebook, so Facebook ka retention itna hai, Google ka itna hai. All of this, one we look up and you're sorted.
Got it.
Hi, Apar.
Marmik, another question that just popped up while Aditya was asking this previous question was the LTV that you created. So one thing that I did, this is an activity I did about a year and a half ago. I read online, kaise karte hain, divided my customers into category A, category C. Basis the recency, frequency, and the monetary value. And then I said ki category A ka LTV itna hai, B ka itna hai, C ka itna hai. My question to you is, how do we sort of, so when we figured out mera category, so wo internal we defined ki RFM के हिसाब से कितना A में जाना चाहिए, कौन B में जाना चाहिए, कौन C में जाना चाहिए. Once you've defined your category A LTV, category B and category C LTVs, what strategies do you use to sort of bring them back and move people from C to B and B to A? I mean, was my question clear?
Yeah, it is, but I think it will be covered in the second session today itself, right, Sharon?
Sorry, basically the question is
cross-sell from one category to
driving
another.
Repeat will be covered in the next session.
Yeah, it'll be covered in the next session itself.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's the same question Apari said, I don't know tracking it now. I don't know how do I improve it. The next session is literally how do I improve my retention or my lifetime value. Great. Any other final questions? Okay, so I think we are sort of 3 minutes away. I don't want to take more time. I want to sort of take 2-3 things to sort of summarize a lot of those learnings, because these are one of those really heavy sessions. But a lot of people thank me having sort of attended this because they realize the value on sort of doing this analysis for their own business. So I hope so. 2 things I want to sort of take over the screen from Marmik. So yeah, 1 second. Great. So I hope after this session, 2-3 things I want to sort of make sure all of us take away. One is you've sort of seen this story being told about your business with the data that your business is already generating. All of this can be literally exported from your Shopify, and you can sort of build this model for yourself within like a few hours of work, literally using the template that sort of Marmik has developed live for you. One of those things, which Marmik is very bold, and I'm amazed when he's able to do it, is he's able to build this entire worksheet with you on the fly. Right. And sort of when you sort of see that being built on the fly and you have the access to the recording, you'll be able to sort of, put that in perspective, sort of answer very, very key questions which we have in our mind, but we don't really sort of think about answering. So we're like, okay, target hai, we want to grow by 25%. But how do I break that target into something which is achievable, which my team will sort of buy into? How do I sort of make that key, how do I leverage my repeat users to sort of make those targets actually achievable for myself, right? How do I track my monthly retention across my cohorts, right? Is that Shopify number good enough? Or if my actual cohort retention on a basis is far more accurate for me to sort of then make change around? Or more importantly, what is my lifetime value of a customer that I'm acquiring? And I can then, and hence, if I know my lifetime value, can I be more aggressive around my CAC? Or when is the right payback period? So if I want to sort of earn my money for every user that I acquire within a period, how many, like what is the CAC I should be targeting for? If you sort of learn this, by doing this, you sort of understand and evaluate between other channels. And that's sort of, this is one of those sessions which I highly recommend everyone to sort of revisit back and sort of build out those sheets, Balki Sainath in this group sort of messaged me, and he might want to sort of put this idea that if a lot of you want to sort of do this together in one of those sessions, like as a Wednesday workshop, we might not be able to directly run that, but sort of, if you want to sort of hold peer accountability between other founders, so he'll put that idea in the group and we can sort of see to sort of give you lab time to sort of do this for yourself. And so on that note, maybe before that, Sanjay, you have a quick question. So yes.
Yes. Mami, quick question. Is there a plugin or an app on Shopify where you could pull this and put this automatically? I've tried a couple of apps, including something called By the Numbers. But whenever I cross-check the data, it doesn't match. Sometimes my number of orders are much lower. Sometimes when a COD order is converted to prepaid, it counts it as 2 orders. Like you mentioned, a good frequency will be probably to refresh it every week. I would actually, because it's a new business for me, I would like to do it more frequently. And then taking out an order dump, formatting it, deleting columns, putting it into the data, refreshing it will become a little cumbersome. So if there's an app which can help me do this on a refresh, it will help.
So what you can do is, so let's say if you have 20 columns, right? You can, I'll just share my screen. I'll take 1 minute and not more. Am I sharing the right screen?
Yeah, I can see your Excel.
So what you can do is, let's say there are 2 sheets, okay? Sheet 7, sheet 8. Sheet 1 has order, phone, and date. Okay? So what you can do is in sheet 8, because you only need order, phone, and date, right? You can just simply put a reference and get data and then just paste it as value into sample data wala sheet. You don't need a plugin, right? It's a very simple Excel formula only that you can paste as values essentially.
Okay. All right. So I can take out the data for that particular period, let's say a week, till the time I have taken it in the past, and just add the next few days and keep refreshing. Okay.
Yeah, देखो थोड़ा manually ना better रहता है tools वगैरह से.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Marmik, before we close, I had one last question. So how would I track my user behavior or customer behavior across platforms? Like sometimes we have customer we acquire on our website, but then they end up buying from Amazon, and the few of them who come from Amazon or Cred and they come and buy on a website. So how do I really build an understanding of how my customer is moving where?
Best way to do it is that simple filter that I showed, product A to product B. It can just be platform A to platform
B. Okay.
Yeah. Like
just try to match the numbers across platforms and just see how they're moving.
Yeah. Like you could put a countif where first platform is Cred and second platform is this.
Got it.
The countif covers it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. So that on that note, I sort of want to always thank Marmik for his time in doing this. I hope this session sort of fits a lot of our learnings into a model for us to track and then hence eventually improve our business. Like I said, what gets measured gets done, and which is why I find this session very, very interactive around sort of building that right model to sort of measuring the right things and then sort of taking actionable insights around sort of scaling our marketing and our growth plans around it. And also another thing is many times you might go to venture capitals, they literally ask you what your cohort retention looks like, right? And these are those key things which you should be doing this for your own business very, very diligently. I wouldn't have to stress that enough. And then on that note, the next session is literally how do I improve my repeat usage? So that's with Abhishek. He's sort of head of D2C at Mama Earth. So he sort of runs that session for us. And on that note, 2 things. I want everyone to sort of turn on their videos. And Marmik, you can join us. It's our way of, like you're aware, saying thanks to you for your time. So you put our hands in front. Yes. If you want to unmute yourself, please do. And then ready? 3, 2, 1. Go team, everyone.